The massive viewing screens aboard Space Station Prime flickered with scenes of violence and glory. Alien spectators from 100 worlds crowded the observation decks, their eyes fixed on the battles below. In the Grand Galactic Arena, a massive blue-skinned warrior fell to his knees, defeated by a creature that seemed to be made entirely of living crystal. The crowd roared with approval, credits changing hands as bets were settled. High above the arena floor, in a private chamber decorated with trophies from 1,000 battles, colony leader Marcus watched the spectacle with a heavy heart. The message crystal on his desk still glowed with the ultimatum he'd received just hours ago. Provide a warrior for the upcoming Tournament of Dominance, or watch his colony world burn. Impossible choices for impossible times, he muttered, running a hand through his graying hair. The colony on New Hope had been humanity's first successful settlement beyond Earth's solar system. Now, after 30 years of peace, everything hung by a thread. A tall, spider-like alien entered the chamber, its metallic exoskeleton catching the light. "Have you made your decision, colony leader?" The translator hanging from its neck turned the clicking sounds into smooth English. The council grows impatient. Marcus turned from the window. "We're a mining colony. We have engineers, farmers, scientists, not warriors. You know this, High Commander." The alien's multiple eyes flickered with what might have been amusement. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before settling in our space. The rules are clear. All species must prove their worth or accept protected status. Protected species have no right to independent colonies." On the screens behind them, the Crystal Warrior was receiving its victory crown. The crowd's cheers echoed through the station's halls. Marcus watched as maintenance drones cleaned the arena floor, washing away blood in a dozen different colors. "The human body is so limited," the High Commander continued. "No natural armor, no claws, weak muscles compared to many species. It would be better to accept reality. Surrender your independence. Accept our protection." Marcus's communicator buzzed. He glanced at the message and, for the first time that day, smiled. "You're right about one thing, High Commander. The human body is limited." He turned to face the alien fully. "That's why we don't rely on just our bodies." The alien's translator crackled. "Meaning?" "Our warrior has arrived. Jack Stone, former Earth Special Forces, the kind of man who's made a career of overcoming limitations." A High Commander's laughter filled the room, a sound like grinding metal. "A soldier? Against arena champions. Against beings who can crush steel with their bare hands." It moved closer to Marcus, looming over him. "Do you know what happened to the last soft-bodied species that tried to compete? They had to grow new contestants in tanks because the original ones were unrecognizable." Marcus held his ground. "Then I suggest you pay very close attention to what happens next. You might learn something about humans. The Council will expect your warrior in the preparation chambers by station dawn," the High Commander said, moving toward the door. "Though I doubt he'll survive long enough to need preparation." After the alien left, Marcus returned to the window. In the arena below, workers were setting up barriers and obstacles for tomorrow's matches. The betting boards on the far wall were already displaying odds for upcoming fights. He spotted Earth's flag near the bottom, the odds against a human victory so high they seemed to stretch forever. His communicator buzzed again, a simple message: "In position, ready to begin." Marcus smiled again, remembering an old quote from Earth's history. "We're not trapped in here with them. They're trapped in here with us." Below, the arena's night lights came on, casting long shadows across the fighting ground. Somewhere on the station, Jack Stone was preparing for tomorrow. Marcus had seen his record, knew what the man was capable of. These aliens thought they were getting a simple soldier, someone to beat and humiliate. Instead, they were about to learn why humans had survived on a planet that tried to kill them every day of their evolution. Why they had spread across their solar system despite having no natural gifts for survival in space. Why they had thrived in places where other species said they would fail. Tomorrow, the Grand Galactic Arena would witness something new. A human fighting not just for victory, but for the right of his entire species to be seen as equals. The aliens might be laughing now, but Marcus had a feeling that laughter wouldn't last long. He touched the window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. "Show them what we can do, Jack. Show them all." The docking bay of Space Station Prime buzzed with activity as Jack Stone stepped off the transport ship. He carried a single bag over his shoulder, wearing simple black clothing that made him look more like a mechanic than a warrior. At 6 feet tall, he was dwarfed by most of the alien species around him. Some had to duck to avoid the ceiling, while others moved on multiple legs or floated entirely above the ground. A group of green-skinned merchants stopped their conversation to stare at him, their long necks craning for a better look. One of them made a sound like bubbling water. Laughter, Jack realized. Soon others joined in. The human's arrival was apparently the day's best entertainment. "You must be the Earth Warrior," a voice said behind him. Jack turned to find a short, round alien with golden scales and 4 arms. "I am Tom." "Well, that's not my real name, but humans can't pronounce it. I'm supposed to show you to the preparation area." Jack nodded, following Tom through the crowded corridors. More aliens stopped to watch them pass. Some pointed, others whispered, and a few made rude gestures that crossed all species barriers. Jack ignored them all, his eyes constantly moving, taking in every detail of the station's layout. "They're betting against you, you know," Tom said as they walked. "The odds are 10,000 to 1. Some bookmakers won't even take bets on you surviving your first match." "Good," Jack replied, his first word since arriving. "Better odds for those who bet smart." They reached a massive door marked with symbols from dozens of languages. Inside was a chamber filled with combat gear from across the galaxy. Weapons of all shapes and sizes lined the walls. Training dummies made of strange materials stood in corners. The air smelled of oil and something like cinnamon. Master Krill waited for them, his insectoid form towering over both Jack and Tom. His black carapace gleamed under the lights, and his mandibles clicked as he spoke through a translator. "So this is the human warrior. I expected more." Jack set his bag down and stood straight, meeting all 4 of Master Krill's eyes without flinching. "Sorry to disappoint. Your first match is tomorrow," Master Krill said, "against a warrior from World Hammer, a heavy-gravity planet. His bones are dense as steel, his muscles can crush rock." He leaned down, bringing his face close to Jack's. "Do you wish to withdraw? It would be understandable." "No," Jack's voice remained calm. "But I would like to see the arena rules and any footage of previous matches." Master Krill's mandibles twitched. "You think studying will help you survive? Perhaps you misunderstand. This is not one of your human sporting events. This is combat to submission or death." "I understand perfectly." Jack began unpacking his bag, laying out simple exercise gear. "That's why I want to study. Knowledge is a weapon too." The arena master made a harsh sound that might have been a laugh. "Very well. Tom will show you to your quarters and provide the materials you requested. Try not to die too quickly tomorrow. It's bad for business." After Master Krill left, Tom helped Jack gather some basic supplies. "You're either very brave or very foolish," the alien said. "Maybe both." Jack was examining a piece of training equipment, testing its weight and balance. "Neither. I'm just well trained. But you're so small and soft. How can you hope to compete?" Jack put down the equipment and turned to Tom. "Let me tell you something about humans. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages with nothing but fur skins and fire. We crossed oceans on boats made of wood. We reached space in machines that had less computing power than the translator you're wearing." He picked up his bag, ready to see his quarters. "We did it all without claws, without armor, without super strength. We did it by thinking, adapting, and refusing to quit. Your people look at me and see weakness because I'm human. That's fine." A small smile crossed his face. It just means they won't see me coming. Tom stared at him for a long moment before nodding slowly. Perhaps I should place a small bet on you after all. As they left the preparation area, more aliens gathered to watch and laugh at the human warrior. Jack walked past them, his steps steady and sure. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and then the laughing would stop. What none of them realized was that Jack Stone hadn't come to the arena to fight. He'd come to win. And in his experience, those were two very different things. In his preparation chamber, Jack sat cross-legged on the floor, watching holographic replays of previous arena matches. The blue glow of the projections filled the otherwise dark room. His opponent from World Hammer appeared in most of them, crushing opponents with brutal efficiency. The alien warrior was 8 feet tall, with gray stone-like skin and muscles that bulged like steel cables. Tom entered with a tray of food, his golden scales reflecting the hologram's light. "You've been watching these for 6 hours straight," he said, setting down the tray. "Even the arena bookies are sleeping by now." Jack didn't look away from the projections. Notice something about his left leg. When he moves to the right, there's a pattern. He pointed to the hologram. Every third step, he shifts his weight differently. "I see nothing," Tom said, squinting at the image. "Exactly. Most people wouldn't." Jack stood up, stretching muscles that had grown stiff from sitting. "Old injury, probably. Healed well, but not perfectly. He compensates without realizing it. And this helps you how? He can still break you in half." Jack walked to a corner where he'd set up simple exercise equipment. "Maybe. But breaking something isn't the same as beating it." He began a series of precise movements, each one smooth and controlled. "In my last deployment on Earth, my team was pinned down by an enemy force 3 times our size. They had better weapons, better position, everything." "What happened?" Tom asked, settling down to watch. "We won." Jack continued his exercises without breaking rhythm. "Because we didn't try to beat them at their game. We changed the rules." A loud buzzing interrupted them. The chamber door slid open, revealing the alien doctor who'd come for Jack's mandatory pre-fight examination. The doctor was tall and thin, with 6 arms and skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "This won't take long," the doctor said, setting up strange equipment. "Though I don't understand why we bother. Your species' vital signs are so primitive." Jack submitted to the examination without complaint. The doctor's many hands moved efficiently, taking readings and measurements. Gradually, the alien's color-shifting skin began showing patterns of confusion. "This can't be right," the doctor muttered, checking a reading again. "Your endurance levels, and these stress responses." He looked at Jack with all 3 sets of eyes. "You've been awake for over 20 hours, studying and training. Your body should show more fatigue." "Humans are good at staying awake," Jack said simply, "when we need to." The doctor made more notes, growing increasingly puzzled. "And these old injury marks, you've been badly hurt before." "Many times. Yet you recovered." "Humans are good at that too." After the doctor left, still muttering about impossible readings, Tom helped Jack clear space for more training. "Other warriors are gathering outside," the alien said. "They want to see their easy victory for tomorrow." As if on cue, the door slid open again. A massive warrior covered in bony plates stomped in, followed by 2 others, one with metallic skin, another seeming made of living smoke. They filled the room with their presence, looming over Jack and Tom. "This is the human," the bone-plated one growled. "I lost good credits betting on World Hammer. Now the odds are dropping because some fools actually bet on you." Jack continued his exercises, seeming not to notice them. "Hey, soft skin, we're talking to you." The warrior reached for Jack's shoulder. In one fluid motion, Jack shifted. The alien's hand met empty air. Somehow, Jack was now behind them, still doing his exercises, as if nothing had happened. The warrior stared. The move had been so smooth, so fast, None of them had seen exactly how he'd done it. "You should leave now," Jack said quietly, not looking at them. "I need to train." They left, their swagger gone, replaced by uncertain glances over their shoulders. Tom watched them go, then turned to Jack with all four arms spread wide. "What was that?" "Just movement," Jack said. "Humans are good at that too." He paused his exercises and looked at the holograms still playing. "They all think this is about strength, about who can hit harder." A small smile crossed his face. "Tomorrow, they'll learn what happens when you fight a human who's had time to prepare." Tom looked at the replays, then at Jack. For the first time, he wondered if perhaps the humans weren't so soft after all. The arena roared with excitement and laughter as Jack stepped onto the fighting ground. Compared to the massive warrior from World Hammer, he looked like a child. The betting boards flashed with last-minute wagers, most still heavily against the human. In the VIP box, colony leader Marcus gripped his chair's armrests until his knuckles turned white. "Last chance to surrender, human." The World Hammer warrior rumbled through his translator. "I'll make it quick." His gray, stone-like skin gleamed under the arena lights, muscles rippling like moving boulders. Jack rolled his shoulders, loose and relaxed. He wore simple black fighting clothes, no armor. The crowd's laughter grew louder at the sight. In the preparation area, Tom watched nervously through the force field barrier. Master Krill's voice boomed across the arena. "Combat begins in 3, 2, 1. Fight." The warrior from World Hammer charged forward like a living tank, the ground shaking with each step. His massive fist swung in an arc that could shatter steel. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see the human crushed instantly. Instead, they saw empty air. Jack had moved, just slightly, just enough. The giant's momentum carried him forward as Jack stepped calmly to the side. "Stand still," the warrior roared, turning for another charge. His left leg shifted with that telltale motion Jack had spotted in the replays. This time when Jack moved, it was with purpose. The warrior's own strength worked against him. As he stumbled on his weak leg, Jack was there, using the alien's momentum to send him crashing into one of the arena's barriers. The crowd's laughter died a little. "Impossible," someone muttered in the stands. "He's so fast." The World Hammer warrior rose, fury in his eyes. "Lucky move, human. But you can't hurt me. My skin is like stone. My bones are stronger than your metals." Jack nodded. "True." He settled into a ready stance. "But stones can break." What followed was a dance. The warrior would charge, and Jack would move. Each time, he was exactly where he needed to be. No wasted motion, no flashy displays. And each time, the giant would crash into something, or stumble, or find his own strength used against him. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The warrior's breathing grew heavy. His movements slowed. That subtle shift in his left leg became more pronounced. "Getting tired?" Jack asked quietly. "Gravity's lower here than on your world, but you're still carrying all that mass, all that strength." He circled his opponent carefully. "Must be exhausting." The warrior roared and charged again. But this time, when Jack moved, he also struck. His fist hit a precise point on the warrior's leg, right where that old injury had weakened the stone-like flesh. The giant stumbled, truly stumbled, for the first time. The crowd fell silent. "That's not possible," the warrior gasped. You can't be strong enough." "I'm not," Jack agreed. "But I don't need to be. Your own strength did most of the work. I just helped it along." The next few minutes changed everything. Jack moved like water around his opponent's increasingly desperate attacks. Each strike hit a precise point, using the warrior's own power to multiply the damage. The giant's stone-like skin might have been impervious to normal attacks, but nothing could withstand the force of its own strength turned against it. Finally, the warrior from World Hammer fell to one knee, his leg no longer able to support him. Jack stood calmly before him, not even breathing hard. "Do you submit?" Jack asked quietly. The warrior looked up at the human who had defeated him without landing a single direct blow, who had turned his greatest strengths into weaknesses. I submit." The arena was silent for 3 heartbeats. Then chaos erupted. The betting boards flashed with updated odds. Spectators who had been laughing earlier sat in stunned silence. In the VIP box, Marcus smiled. As medical teams helped the defeated warrior from the arena, Jack turned to leave. He caught Tom's eye through the barrier and gave a small nod. "Humans," Tom said to no one in particular, his golden scales shimmering with excitement. "They're not trapped in here with us. We're trapped in here with them." In the arena's upper levels, the other warriors watched with new eyes. The laughter was gone. The real competition had begun. 3 days had passed since Jack's first victory, and Space Station Prime had changed. The laughter was gone, replaced by worried whispers and careful observation. Jack had won 2 more matches, one against a warrior made of living crystal, another against a being that could control gravity itself. Each time, he'd won through perfect timing and tactical thinking, rather than brute force. In a private chamber high above the arena, Master Krill met with the High Commander and other alien leaders. The atmosphere was tense. "This is unprecedented," the High Commander said, his metallic exoskeleton reflecting the starlight from nearby windows. "The human doesn't just win. He makes it look easy." Master Krill's mandibles clicked nervously. The betting pools are in chaos. More importantly, other species are starting to study his techniques. They're learning. A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing Jack's latest victory. They watched as he defeated a warrior 3 times his size by using the alien's own momentum against him. The replay highlighted his movements, showing how each step was calculated, each position perfect. "We designed the arena for a purpose," the High Commander said. "To identify species that might threaten galactic stability. To contain them before they become dangerous." He turned to the others. "We may have made a terrible mistake with humans." In his preparation chamber, Jack was unaware of the political storm brewing above. He sat with Tom, watching replays of his next opponent, a warrior who could split into multiple copies of himself. "The other fighters are trying to copy your moves," Tom said, his golden scales dimmer than usual with worry. "Some of them are getting good at it." Jack nodded. "Good. That means they're learning. But isn't that bad for you? For humans?" "No." Jack stood, stretching. "Because they're learning to fight like me. I'm learning to fight like them. The difference is, humans have been doing this for thousands of years, adapting, absorbing, improving." Their conversation was interrupted by colony leader Marcus, who entered looking troubled. "Jack, we need to talk. The station's council is meeting. They're concerned about your victories." "They should be," Jack said quietly. "They thought this was about finding the strongest warrior, but it's not. It's about finding the most dangerous species." He looked at Marcus. "And what's more dangerous than a species that can learn to beat any opponent?" Marcus nodded slowly. "The Council has reviewed Earth's history. They're particularly interested in how humans went from fighting with spears to reaching space in less than 10,000 years. "That's not even the scary part," Tom interjected. "The scary part is how humans learn from defeat. Every time they lose, they come back stronger." A loud buzz announced Jack's next match would begin soon. As he prepared to leave, Marcus caught his arm. "Be careful out there. I think there's more at stake than just our colony now." The arena was packed when Jack entered. The crowd had changed. Instead of looking for entertainment, they were studying, analyzing. In the fighters area, warriors from a dozen worlds watched with intense focus, some mimicking his warm-up movements. His opponent appeared in a flash of light, a tall, sleek warrior with silver skin who could split into 3 identical copies. The crowd murmured as the copies surrounded Jack. "Interesting technique you have, human. All three copies said in unison. But can you handle fighting multiple opponents at once? Jack settled into his ready stance, calm as ever. You know what humans did when we met opponents we couldn't beat alone. A small smile crossed his face. We learned to work in teams. The fight began, but this time Jack showed something new. His movements flowed like water around all three opponents, using their attacks against each other. When one copy struck, Jack would move so another copy's attack would hit it instead. In the VIP box, the High Commander watched with growing concern. Do you see what he's doing? He's not just winning. He's teaching everyone in this arena a new way to fight. Master Krill's translator crackled with static as he responded. Perhaps that's why humans are truly dangerous, not because they're strong, but because they make everyone around them stronger too. Below, Jack continued his dance of combat. Every move a lesson, every dodge a demonstration. The galaxy was about to change, and it had all started with a laugh. The air in Space Station Prime crackled with tension. Today was the final match, and the stakes had never been higher. Jack stood in his preparation chamber, wrapping his hands with simple cloth strips, while Tom paced nervously nearby. They say the perfect one has never lost, Tom said, his golden scales dulled with worry. They engineered him in laboratories, took the best traits from 100 species. He's exactly what they think a warrior should be. Through the chamber window, they could see the arena being modified. Barriers rose from the floor, creating a complex battlefield. Medical teams stood ready, expecting the worst. Master Krill entered the chamber, his black carapace gleaming. The Council has a message for you, human. Withdraw now, and your colony will still be safe. We'll even grant you favorable trade status. Jack continued wrapping his hands. They're that worried. They should be, Marcus said, stepping into the room. I've seen the reports. Your matches haven't just changed the odds. They've changed how species across the galaxy think about combat, about humans. The station's speakers crackled to life, announcing 10 minutes until the final match. Jack stood, rolling his shoulders. Good. Then they're finally learning. Learning what? Master Krill asked. That true strength isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to change. The arena was packed beyond capacity when Jack entered. Every species in known space seemed to have representatives watching. The betting boards had frozen. No one knew what odds to give anymore. The perfect one appeared from the opposite entrance. He stood 7 feet tall, his body a seamless blend of muscle, armor, and technological enhancement. His skin shifted colors like a chameleon, and his movements were precisely calculated. I've studied all your matches, the perfect one said, his voice a harmonious blend of tones. I know every move you've shown, every technique you've used. Jack nodded. I know. That's the problem with being perfect. You stop looking for new ways to improve. The fight began without warning. The perfect one moved with blinding speed, his attacks coming from impossible angles. His body adapted to each situation, hardening like steel for strikes, becoming fluid to avoid counters, generating energy fields to control distance. Jack was forced back, dodging and weaving. A strike caught his shoulder, sending him spinning. The crowd gasped. The perfect one was living up to his name. You see, the perfect one said, pressing his advantage. I am the pinnacle of evolution and engineering. What can one human do against perfection? Jack wiped blood from a split lip. Perfection. That's your weakness. You were built to be the perfect warrior, but humans. He settled into a new stance, one no one had seen before. We were built to adapt. What followed was unlike anything the arena had ever seen. Jack stopped trying to match the perfect one's style. Instead, he created something new with every exchange. When the perfect one adapted to one approach, Jack would switch to another. Each time his opponent mastered a defense, Jack found a new way to attack. Impossible, the perfect one said, his perfect composure cracking. These movements, they're not in any database. They're not in your previous matches. Because I just made them up, Jack said, pressing forward now. Humans don't just learn from victory. We learn from losing, from struggling, from pain. The perfect one's advantages began to fade. His programmed responses couldn't keep up with Jack's continuous adaptation. His perfect form meant nothing against an opponent who kept changing the rules of engagement. In the VIP box, the High Commander watched in growing understanding. Now I see the true danger. We built the perfect one to be the best at everything known. But humans, they create the unknown. The end came suddenly. The perfect one, trying to counter Jack's latest innovation, left himself open for a split second. Jack struck, not with power, but with precise timing and leverage. The engineered warrior fell, his perfect balance turned against him. Submit, Jack said quietly. The perfect one looked up at him, genuine confusion in his engineered features. How? I was designed to be perfect. Perfect is finished, Jack replied. Adaptable is forever. The arena erupted in chaos. In that moment, every species present understood something fundamental had changed. The age of seeking perfection was over. The age of human adaptation had begun. 1 week after Jack's victory over the perfect one, Space Station Prime hummed with unprecedented activity. Ships from every known civilization arrived daily, carrying diplomats instead of warriors. The arena, once a place of combat, had been transformed into a meeting hall. Jack stood at a window in the preparation chamber, now serving as his temporary quarters, watching the steady stream of vessels dock. His injuries from the final battle had mostly healed, leaving only a few small scars to join the collection he'd earned on Earth. They're calling it the Stone Protocol, Tom said, entering the chamber with his golden scales gleaming brightly. Every species in the galaxy wants to learn from humans now. Ironic, Jack replied. A few weeks ago, they were laughing at us. The door slid open again, admitting colony leader Marcus and Master Krill. The arena master's black carapace showed signs of recent polishing, and his translator had been upgraded to a newer model. The council has finished their deliberations, Marcus announced, barely containing his excitement. It's more than we ever hoped for. Master Krill's mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke. All human colonies are to be granted full independence. Earth will have a seat on the Galactic Council. And, he paused, his multiple eyes focusing on Jack, they want to establish a new training academy, with you as its first instructor. Not just for combat, Marcus added quickly. They want to learn how humans adapt, how we turn weakness into strength. Some species are already talking about joint exploration missions. Jack turned from the window. And the perfect one. Requesting to be your first student, Tom said with a bubbling laugh. He says perfection means nothing without the ability to grow beyond it. Through the window, they could see the arena floor below. Warriors from different species who had once fought each other were now training together, sharing techniques. Some were attempting to copy Jack's movements from recorded matches, while others developed their own variations. Your victories changed everything, Master Krill said. We designed the arena to identify threats, to keep the galaxy stable through fear and dominance. Instead, you showed us a better way. Not me, Jack corrected him. Humanity. We've been teaching each other since we first picked up sticks and stones, learning from everyone, even our enemies, especially our enemies. A small alert sounded, indicating it was time for the formal council announcement. As they walked through the station's corridors, aliens who had once mocked the human now bowed respectfully. Some even attempted Earth-style salutes. They reached the transformed arena, now filled with diplomatic delegations from across known space. The High Commander stood at the central platform, his metallic exoskeleton polished to a mirror shine. A month ago, the High Commander began, his voice carrying to every corner. We thought we knew the measure of humanity. We saw their physical limitations and laughed. We saw their lack of natural weapons and dismissed them. He turned to face Jack. We were wrong. The assembled delegates murmured in agreement. The human warrior showed us that true strength lies not in being the biggest, the strongest, or even the most perfect. It lies in the ability to grow, to learn, to adapt. From this day forward, humanity will not be classified as a protected species, but as a teaching species. Marcus leaned close to Jack and whispered, "Not bad for a mining colony." Jack allowed himself a small smile. Just wait until they meet our scientists and artists. The High Commander continued. The Stone Protocol will establish new guidelines for galactic cooperation. No more will we judge species by their natural advantages, but by their potential to grow and contribute. As the announcement concluded, Tom approached Jack with all 4 arms full of data tablets. You've got training requests from 50 different worlds already. Where do you want to start? Jack looked out over the assembled aliens, former enemies now eager to learn, former mockers now seeking understanding. Start with the ones who laugh the loudest, he said. They've already learned the first lesson about humans. What's that? Tom asked. That underestimating us is the last mistake you'll make. Jack smiled. But helping us grow might be the best decision you'll ever make. Above them, the station's screens displayed a new message where betting odds had once flashed. Welcome to the age of adaptation. The laughter had stopped, but something better had taken its place. Hope for a future where every species could become more than they were born to be. No one would ever laugh at a human in the arena again. But then again, there was no need for an arena anymore. The real adventure was just beginning.